Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to this next jazz guitar lesson. I hope that you're all doing well. Thanks for coming back to check out the lesson. For today, what we're going to be taking a look at is something that is really cool and can add a lot of interest to your chordo playing. And basically the idea is moving tones around within a chord without actually like moving the chord to another position on the neck or moving to another inversion or something like that. So what we're going to be doing is, like, say we're hanging out on like maybe a D minor 7 for a little bit. We're going to be taking a look at moving the voices around a little bit within the actual chord to get some really nice movement and yeah, just some nice melodies. You can really go crazy with this idea and take this to a lot of really neat places. I'm going to kind of today just give you guys the idea, give you guys some examples, and then from there, you know, the sky is the limit with this idea, and you can, you know, add this into other things besides just your jazz playing. And I find myself doing this all the time now with chords and triads and, you know, maybe 4-note chords and stuff like that, is looking for places that I can move tones around and get some really cool melodies happening within my chords. So we're going to be taking a look at a couple different ways to do this today. And yeah, like I said, it's a lot of fun and can add a lot of interest to your chordo playing. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright guys, so there's basically two ways that we can do these kind of moving melodies within our chord shapes. And I should mention we're also just going to be using our standard shell voicings for this, so stuff that we already know and are really comfortable with. And as I've been mentioning to you guys, you know, hopefully you guys have worked out a couple different ways to finger these shell voicings, because now for today this is going to become really important. So yeah, let's just start off with just our shape 1 from an E string root, okay, a low E string root. So we'll just start off with shape 1. And so the two ways that we can kind of approach these notes, the melodies, are basically we can approach them from like, you know, just thinking scale notes in the scale and just kind of throwing those in. Or we can think of chromatic notes, chromatic passing tones, and we're not going to get like too much into theory with all this stuff. We're just going to kind of use our ear and just kind of listen, you know, to what sounds best and what works and what might not work. So yeah, let's just start with, we'll just go through like some 2-5-1s, just major 2-5-1s, so minor 7, dominant 7, major 7 end off with. So we'll kind of get our three main qualities. Now the idea with this is that, you know, we're mostly going to be resolving to our standard chord shape. So we're going to be playing a couple melodies and then we're going to resolve it kind of to like our standard chord shape. You know, unless you land on a tone that you really like and you think sounds good and you can extend it out for a little bit, then that's awesome. Go for that. But at any rate, so let's just take a look at this. So we're going to be in C major, okay? So just a 2-5-1 to C. So just shape 1, shape 2, shape 1. Okay, so just those shapes that we know really well by now. Okay, so let's take the first D minor 7. Okay, now here's what we're going to do. We're never going to actually move the root note around. That's going to stay where it's at. The notes that we are going to move around are the two highest notes in the actual chord. Okay, so for instance right here, our two highest notes are on the D and the G string. Okay, let's try it moving around our F note, which is on the G string right now. Okay, and some of these can be a little bit stretchy, so just be warned with that. So what I'm going to do is take my pinky off. I'm going to leave my middle and my ring finger sustaining those notes. Okay, so pinky's going to come off and go down to the pointer finger at the 7th fret of the G. Then I'm going to bring it up to the 9th fret, then up to the 10th fret. So then I get this nice little melody moving around while these notes are still sustained. Okay? So you can see what a cool little movement that adds, and you can still tell that I'm just hanging out on that D minor 7, but I'm just kind of moving the melody notes around a little bit within that chord, kind of to see what I come up with. And you know, with this, I'm just thinking the actual scale. So I'm thinking, since I'm in C major, the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, no sharps or flats. So I'm going D, E, F, okay, which, you know, has a really nice sound to it. And normally I'm doing these little add-on notes like below, below where my fingers are. So I'm usually not going above too much. I'm usually bringing it back up to like the original chord. Okay, so we've taken the highest note. Now let's take the middle note. Okay, so in this case, the C note right here. Okay, so basically I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go down to the 7th with my pointer, up to the 9th. Okay, so you can hear how cool that is. Okay, so we get a lot of really nice movement with that. Okay, and that's kind of giving us like a nice Dorian sound there when we hit that 6 right there. Okay, now to the middle voicing. So you can hear, you can just kind of experiment with that and see what kind of melodies you end up with and what kind of sounds and tones you get out of that. And again, I'm just like thinking just notes from the scale that are beneath where my fingers are at, and then I'm just kind of grabbing those. I mean, you can reach basically as far as you want to go with this, just so long as it sounds good. You just have to use your ears for this and make sure that it actually sounds cool. Okay, so that is our first minor 7 shape right there. And that will basically work anywhere that a minor 7's a 2 chord. So, maybe we're doing like a 2-5-1 to B flat. Well, we could still do that. You heard that little movement in there. So it sounds really, really nice to do that. Okay, let's move on to a dominant 7 now. Alright guys, and I should mention for right now that we're just going to be sticking around the shape 1, or all the shape 1 shapes, the shell voicings for right now. So let's now go to a dominant 7 chord. So we'll go down all the way to G dominant 7 down here at the 3rd fret. Okay, so here's our 5 chord. Okay, so with the 5 chord, I really like to add some chromatic notes in there, like for instance right here. Now I'm fingering this middle, ring, and then pinky, okay? So middle on the E, ring on the D, pinky on the G. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take my pinky off, add my pointer to the 2nd fret of the G, okay, which gives us the 2nd of the chord. And then add my pinky to the 3rd fret, which becomes a flat 3rd or a chromatic passing tone. Just kind of a cool little, a little just movement there, a little melody. Okay. Okay, so that's a nice little movement right there. I like to add those chromatic notes, especially on the dominant 7 chord. Okay, now what about the middle voicing? We took the highest voicing in that, so now the middle voicing. Okay, well, just for purposes right now, because I don't want to add an open string in, let's just move this G dominant 7 up to a C dominant 7, just for right now. Okay, just for practicing this, just for those purposes, quick. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to go all the way down to the 5th fret, and again we're at the 8th fret with the C dominant 7. I'm going to go down to the 5th fret on the D with my pointer finger and take my ring off. Then I'm going to go 5, 7, back to 8. And again you can hear my lowest note and my melody note, my highest note, are still ringing out. So you can just kind of hear the movements in there. And that was, not an extremely musical example. That's just giving you guys the ideas of how that works. So that's kind of some movements I really like to do when I'm on a dominant 7 chord. And that chromatic melody really sounds cool. And again, you can experiment with this. I mean, like if we're taking a top melody note, we could go all the way down to the 5th fret with the pointer. up to the 7, up to 9. Okay, so you could get a ton of mileage out of that. And again, all these ideas will work no matter, wherever the chord is at. So if it was F dominant 7, the same ideas would still apply and still work. So just kind of remember how far we're going with each of those movements, how many frets away. And I encourage you just to kind of move that around and try that in some different areas and some different possibilities and stuff. It sounds really, really cool. So that's our dominant 7, again, just from shape 1. Okay, mix up these melodies, see what happens, when you try them in all sorts of different possibilities and stuff. So, you could take it down, down and then up, or you could just start from low and then come up. All sorts of different possibilities and stuff there to have fun with. So yeah, experiment with the possibilities on that. And now let's go to a major 7 chord. Okay, so a major 7 chord, again from shape 1, low E string root. We've already experimented with this idea just a little bit. And we got this from the 6th chord. If you guys remember playing that, just the C major 7 to C6. And I'm fingering this middle, ring, pinky, and then my pointer is on the 6. Okay, so that's a little movement right there. That's really nice. And since we're already doing that 6, let's just start with the middle voicing in this and move that around and build some melodies with it. And these sound really cool too when the melody, or the movement is inside of the chord, when it's surrounded by the high note and it's not surrounded by the bass note, because then, we've still got these two, kind of the main voicing supporting it, and then the middle voicing is just kind of giving us a nice sound of movement, which is really cool. Okay, so from right here, let's put our pointer finger all the way down the 5th fret, which might be a pretty big stretch for some of you guys. But just take some time on this. Make sure to stretch out a little bit before you attempt this chord. So my pointer's all the way on the 5th fret of the D, and my middle and pinky are still in the same place. Okay, now I'm going to go up to the 6, and then back up to the 7. Which has a really nice sound to it. Okay, and now let's take the highest note in the chord. Okay, so basically I'm going to do the same exact movement of frets. So it's going to be 5, 7, and then 9. Still with my pointer on 5 and 7, but now my pinky's going to come off to 5 on the G. Just going to give us a really minor second there, which is a pretty strong note. But it sounds really cool, as you can hear when we resolve it. So that's just a little example there of what you can do. Let's take this up to an E flat major 7. Okay, and you guys might find that with this, you have to work out your finger independence a little bit too. When you're taking one finger off, putting another finger down, leaving the other fingers where they're at, it might take some major finger independence to kind of be able to play some of these moves and stuff, but put the time into it. It's definitely worth it. It sounds great. It's just it's a fun idea to mess around with and have some fun. So yeah, and again, as you can see with all these voicings right here, I'm just taking notes from the scale and just kind of adding them in and trying to make some melodies that sound musical and stuff. And just for today too, I'm just kind of giving you guys the examples. I'm not trying to make anything crazy musical for right now. I'm just kind of showing you guys what you can do with them, where you can move them around to, and then from there, you guys can, like I said before, go crazy with this idea and come up with sounds that you guys enjoy. So let's now take a look at these shapes from shape 2. Okay, so they're just the 3 adjacent strings with no skip string in them, and we'll take a look at moving tones around from there. Alright guys, so for some of these shape 2 chords, just be warned that they can get a little bit stretchy. So some of these can be a little bit bigger of a stretch, so just kind of watch out. Again, just make sure you stretch out and you're warmed up before attempting some of these. So let's just start with an F minor 7 here. Okay, we're going to be up at fret 8 with the ring finger. Shape 2 from an A string root. Okay, first movement, we're going to start with the inside voice. And I'm just going to drop the pointer finger down 1 fret there. Which you can hear gives us a really nice little movement. It's the 9 of the chord. And again, this will work, this will work as long as you like on a 2 chord. Okay, so a nice little movement there, and we can also, if we really want to get a big stretch, we can put our pointer all the way down to the 3rd fret here, which again you can see is a pretty big stretch. I'm dropping my wrist down quite a bit. But it gives a really nice little movement. Okay, because we get that unison note in there. So you can experiment with that. It's pretty tricky. It's way easier, obviously, when you're higher up the fretboard, so you can decide if that's usable to you guys or not. Okay, so a couple minor 7 moves here. Now let's work with the top voicing for a second, and this can get really, really cool. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is totally reposition how I have my hand on here. I'm going to switch my ring out with my pinky, my pointer out with my middle, and then put my pointer on the 3rd fret of the G. Okay? Which adds the 4 in. So now we got our root, minor 3rd, and then the 4. Okay? And this again will work from anywhere. From B flat up here, back to F. Okay, now I'm going to bring that pointer up 2 frets. Now I just have a standard minor triad. Now I'm going to go back to the original shape. And now I'm going to drop my pinky down to my middle, which is going to be 1 fret lower on the 7th fret of the G, which is going to give us our Dorian note. Okay, so you can get a lot of mileage out of these minor 7 chords in shape 2. So you can hear some of the really nice qualities of the melody. So loads of fun there. Lots of cool sounds to experiment around with. Let's now go to a dominant 7. So let's actually just stay on F for right now because it's in kind of a nice area of the fretboard. So let's just stay on F and go to an F dominant 7 shape. Okay, let's start with our middle voice here. Okay, I'm going to drop my my pointer down, take my middle finger off, put my pointer on the 5th fret, which is going to give us a 2nd. Move the pointer up 1 more fret to give us that flat 3rd, and then back up to the 3rd. Okay, so you can hear that movement pretty nice. So that's what I like to do with the middle voice on dominant 7 shape quite a bit. Okay, now let's take the highest voice. So I'm going to put my pointer finger on the 5th fret of the G and take my pinky off. Okay, then I'm going to bring my pointer up 2 frets to the 7th fret of the G. Okay, so there's a really cool little movement right there. I went 5, 7, back to the original shape, and then a quick 5, 6, 7 with the pointer, middle. So you can hear that's a really nice little movement to do. little chromatic passing tone in there. It's a dominant 7 chord, so you know, you can just experiment with a lot of chromatic notes and see what kind of sounds you like. Okay, let's now move on to the major 7 shape from these shape 2 voicings. Alright guys, so since we've been getting comfortable with F, let's just now go to an F major 7. Okay, from shape 2 again on an A string root. Okay, and I'm going to reposition a little bit. I'm going to swap out my middle for my ring, and then my pointer, and put my middle there. So now I have my ring, middle, and then my pinky up here. That's going to be the first little movement I'm going to do. I'm going to put my pointer on the 5th fret of the D, and then take my middle finger off, so I'm just going to that pointer note. And right there you can hear we get a really nice chord. It's like a major 7 kind of sus2. So that's a really pretty sound. So that's the first little movement that I really like to do. You can reach all the way down to the root. That's a pretty big stretch. I don't really do that very much, you know, especially in something that I'm comping through quickly. But you can reach there if you want to. That'll be another 2 frets down with a pointer. But again, don't risk it. If you know you think you might hurt yourself trying to reach for that, don't even go for it. Okay, now the top voice. So starting from the pinky, we're going to put our pointer on the 5th fret of the G, take our pinky finger off, bring the pointer up to the 7th fret of the G, and then back up to the pinky. And now let's go up to B flat. Right there I did a quick chromatic passing note to get to the 3rd. On the 6th fret. You guys will start recognizing these two pretty easily. You know, like where your tones are and stuff, and what will work, what melody notes you can get to, and what chords you're on. You know, if you're on major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, all that good stuff. So just for time's sake, I'm not going to go over, you know, minor 6 and minor major 7, all that stuff. I'll kind of leave that up to you guys now that you know the general concept. You know, behind this, which is just basically you leave 2 notes sustaining while another note is moving around and making melodies. So now, before the end of this lesson, let's take a look at basically combining some of these shapes together and getting some melody movement. Alright guys, so once again, just for simplicity's sake, we're just going to take a 2-5-1 in C. Okay, so starting with shape 1, E string root, D minor 7, shape 2, A string root, G dominant 7, shape 1, E string root, C major 7. Okay, so those are our chords. So this D minor 7, let's do a melody with the top note in the chord. So I'm going to go 7, 9, 10. Now to the G dominant 7, I'm going to do a little movement with the middle note in the chord. So on the D string, I'm going to go pointer to the 7 of the D, 8, back up to 9. So there's our chromatic passing tone in there. Okay, so sounds cool. And then when we go to the C major 7, I'm actually going to do a movement with both of the top notes in the chord. So I'm going to go from 9 down to 7, and I'm going to be doing a little bar on 7 with my pointer. Okay, so that sounds pretty cool. Or I could just go down to 5 with the pointer on the G, take the pinky off, up to 7, back up to 9. And right there I went down to the 6, up to the 7. So again, here's what this would all sound like. So you can hear that's really, really fun, and it's getting some movement, and it's also kind of forcing me to visualize, some scale shapes kind of around those chords that I'm playing, and some scale notes is what I guess I should say. That I'm not really visualizing scale shapes so much as I'm just visualizing where some notes are from the scale and just kind of grabbing those and seeing how they sound. So again, you guys can experiment with this a ton, and go crazy with it, and you might even find some really cool new shapes that you really prefer. Like if we're doing a 2-5-1, let's say to E flat major. Okay, so first of all we'd have a F minor 7. Just going to the 9 there with my pointer, down 1. Okay, B flat dominant 7. I'm going to do a little chromatic walk with my pointer on the highest note in the chord. So then resolve to E flat major 7, but for here, instead of resolving to this chord, that nice chord we had found from shape 2 where we put our pointer down 2 frets below where the middle was, I'm going to actually resolve to that. And I can bring that back up again. So that's even a really nice vamp right there that I really like the sound of. That's going E flat major 6 up to that new shape we had found, which is basically like a major 7 sus 2. Okay, let's do the same thing from A flat. Okay, so some really nice sounds there. So you guys can experiment with this, and feel free to add more chromatic notes in, maybe do bigger stretches, whatever you want to do with this. And it will take some time, at first it might sound fairly, maybe a little bit generic and kind of boring, but rest assured you'll get way better at this the more you do it, and it can lead to some really nice sounds and especially some really cool movement if you're just hanging on a chord for a little while. And these will all work, just again for time's sake, I didn't go over our shapes, like shape 1 from an A string root and shape 2 from a D string root. Just for time's sake, the same kind of idea will still apply. You're just looking for scale tones around. So that'll kind of be, you guys' homework if you wish to work those shapes out. And these will still work just fine with inversions too. Let's say I had D minor 7, put the 5th in the bass, these will still work. These will still all work just fine with an inversion too, so you can still you can still get all your chord movement within there. So you can experiment with that. So basically, that's the idea. A lot of fun to be had there. A lot of cool things that you can work out and experiment with. And I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson. Like I said, this is just a lot of fun. This will add a lot of mileage to your playing. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. And if you did, and if you can, it'd be awesome if you could help support my YouTube channel. Just go to my homepage and click the support button. Any support you can give is much appreciated. If you can't, that's totally fine. I just appreciate you guys watching the videos. And yeah, please leave me any comments if you have any questions, anything, or anything you might even like to see for a future series of videos. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you all back here again soon. Thanks so much, guys.